Está a passar para o YouTube, isto demora aqui um bocadinho o Zoom a passar para o YouTube, live. Acho que estamos. Vou desligar, passar para o YouTube.
Ok, acho que agora estamos. Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks a lot to join this Research Unplugged session of the CMU Portugal. This is the second session of the Research Unplugged. And these are 30 minutes talk featuring conversations with faculty and researchers from both sides of the Atlantic, so from CMU Portugal and from the Portuguese scientific and innovation ecosystem. So each session showcases CMU Portugal's collaborative initiatives, exploring how cutting-edge research addresses emerging challenges and delivers real-world impact. So today we have Paulo Dimas. Paulo Dimas is the CEO of the Center for Responsible AI, one of the world's leading consortia dedicated to ethical artificial intelligence. And this research center brings together top startups, research centers, and global partners to develop the next generation of AI products rooted in transparency and accountability. Paulo has a career which has been defined by technological entrepreneurship, and he served previously as VP of Product Innovation at Babel, where he played a key role in building the world's first language operations platform. And today, he is a leading voice in the debate on AI's impact on society and economy. Paulo, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for inviting me, João. It's a real pleasure to be here. I've been in some way involved with the CMU Portugal program, which I think, by the way, is the best for quite a while. So I think we can then talk about that in the Q&A. But today I prepared a small presentation about the recent work I've been involved with. So that is leading the Center for Responsible AI. And João, as you said, so the Center for Responsible AI is a big consortium that joins research centers, startups, and industry leading companies to develop the next generation of AI products that we believed when we had the idea about 5 years ago. We're still in COVID times. We're still meeting with masks. And when I say we, so I mean Babel and Feedzai. It's one of the also Portuguese startups, unicorn company already, very much connected with CMU. So the CMU influence is present. And so and when we imagined this big consortium, we immediately anticipated all the challenges that now are even more important. And so this is the photo of the kickoff meeting where we join all these partners organized by tables that in a certain way were inspired by kind of a wedding where we had the challenges from the industry being presented to the startup founders and then to the research scientists and so on. And from this, many products were born. I'm going to talk about some stories in the end. But first, let me just give you an overview of what the center does, what our strategic initiatives. So first of all, the center that has now become a non-profit organization is stimulating the Portugal responsible AI ecosystem. So we organize every year what we call the Demo Day, which happens together with the Responsible AI Forum, where we join all the startups to demonstrate progress on their products. It's like I will always say that no slides are allowed, just live demos. Sometimes the startups don't follow this, but okay. But that's what we want to achieve is really live demos on stage. And also, it's also a moment when we celebrate the best young AI talent. So we have, you can see here on this slide on the right, the Spark Awards that are given by Feedzai to the best research work from a PhD student or from a master student on responsible AI. And so, by the way, if students are watching and they are working on their PhDs or masters, please stay tuned because we're gonna once again give this award this year. So we also organize kind of events where we debate the what we call the future of AI. So and we believe very much that the future of AI is in the intersection of computer science and neuroscience, and because of that, we always try to bring in people from both fields for this conversation. So in November, we had Antonio Damasio. Many of you may have heard about Antonio. Antonio is a world-leading neuroscientist, very famous for his theory of consciousness. And so we had a very interesting conversation with Fernando Pereira from Google DeepMind. And we were talking about, what neuroscience can teach AI and the other way around. So we also organize more thematic events, more specific events that go beyond AI R&D. So and of course we stimulate the collaboration with CMU. And you can see it here on the right. So we have an area, a domain that we are exploring, and we can talk about that in the end if you are interested. That is on AI and the future of work. So we've been involved with at the time it was the Block Center, and now it is the Center for AI Measurement Science. That is led by Ramaya Krishnan, and this is a very exciting area for us to collaborate with CMU. So another kind of event that we organize are scientific workshops organized around the 5 research streams that we defined initially, that go from energy efficient AI, privacy preserving AI, fairness, explainability, and then more broader language technologies. And here on the right, we can see João on a historical workshop, scientific workshop, where we join 2 research groups. So one from Técnico, led from André Martins here on the left. So on the left of the right photo, and then João here on the middle. And this was in a sense the inception of the Amalia Portuguese LLM. So really excited to see how Amalia is going to come out. This is work being done by João and Andre and many research students. Maybe some of them are here listening. Okay, so and this is like our first like strategic initiative, like to foster this ecosystem by joining the research centers, the startups, and then the industry leading companies. Another strategic initiative we have, this is more like for the private sector, is on responsible AI labs. So responsible AI labs are like environments where these industry leaders can bring in their AI challenges, and then we match those AI challenges with AI startups. So initially, so we launched a few for the 5 industry leading companies, and now we are looking into the future to kind of replicate this model. We believe this is a great way to innovate in terms of creating new products. Products are always at the center of what we do, because it's a way for startups to validate their products in an environment that is appropriate, and that helps them find product market fit faster. And then the third strategic initiative is the one around our responsible AI framework. So we, together with FeedZai, have been working on a framework for responsible AI. That is the trust framework. So trust means transparent, robust, universal, sustainable, and tested. I'm not going to go very much deeper on this subject. I could just spend here the whole time just talking about that. But the important thing is that so we want to move forward at a larger scale by aligning AI with these pillars, with these 5 pillars that then go into principles and then best practices. Okay, and this is work we are doing with FeedZai. It's a industry validated framework. We believe that that's one of its biggest values, is that this framework has been validated on real world scenarios thanks to the work of FeedZai. And this is like our fourth strategic initiative. And then finally, that is like almost like a meta initiative that is forming responsible AI consortia. Okay, so our first consortia, the one that I was telling you about, is now being finished. So we're gonna close these 3.5 years of work in June. And so now I can already report progress. I can also give you some context of the main challenges we decided to address initially. So the first was the challenge of having an AI that you can trust. So this is my brain. I'm not invading the privacy of anyone. So you can see my brain here in detail in the MRI. And so the point here is that, so can you trust an AI model, an LLM? If you ask the model if everything is fine with the MRI report. So this is very important. It deals also with explainability, and this is one of the first pillars we define as part of the foundation of the Center for Responsible AI. So and so we know that these models hallucinate. We know that sometimes they even increase the rate of hallucination. So benchmarks just show that. I was just checking the benchmarks for ChatGPT or for GPT 5.5, and it increased hallucinations and in terms of lying the model, which is very interesting to see after all these years that these models still hallucinate. And we are talking about, models that cost hundreds of millions to train. And so this is just to give you an idea of the evolution of hallucinations, in this case from the model from O3 to GPT-5 thinking. Okay, it decreased, but you can't eliminate this hallucination. So the point here, can you trust AI in this context? So just to bring in an example, so a very concrete example of the kind of hallucinations we can see on these models. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, but just to show with very clear evidence. For example, if I ask the model to solve an 8th grade equation like this one, we're going to see that the model is not going to give us the right answer. It's going to hallucinate, and you're going to see why, because in a sense, they are just trained on language patterns. They're just probabilistic models, and of course, they cannot do math. Okay, and so you're going to see here in this concrete example why the model decided that the value was negative, because as you can see there, since 5.9 is smaller than 5.11, result is negative. Okay, which of course doesn't make sense. But yeah, this is a limitation of this paradigm. Okay, so that was the first pillar we defined, like the pillar of explainable AI, of trustworthy AI. Then the second was about fairness. So fairness, there are many examples of the limitations on fairness. This is just one. This was Rite Aid was forbidden to use AI because they were discriminating against women and people of color, classifying them as more probable shoplifters. Okay, so this was the second, and then the third pillar that were at the foundation of the center was about energy efficient AI, about sustainable AI. So just to give you an idea of the progress in terms of energy consumption, in terms of compute measured in number of flops. So we know that this number is increasing exponentially, just from GPT-1 to GPT-2, 244 times more compute, 2 to 3, 73 times more compute, 3 to 4, 67 times more compute, and 4 to 5, 50 times more compute. But I don't know if you know this story, but at the time, OpenAI decided that the performance of what was supposed to be GPT-5 was not better enough, and then they decided just to rename it to GPT 4.5, which shows that in a sense we are like reaching a kind of a plateau on this kind of performance, and then GPT-5 in the end just consumed 3 times more energy. anyway, we are this is an exponential growth, and of course this leads to challenges in terms of energy efficient AI, and then of course the impact on the environment. And so these were the three initial pillars. So as I mentioned, now we have revised these pillars into the 5 pillars of trust. But these were the foundation. So everything at the center was created around these 3 pillars. And so here I like this image because it, in a sense, it shows our architecture. So in the bottom you can see what we call the research lake, where we have 5 research centers that are sharing their research, participating on workshops, aligning their research with the 5 research streams. And it's very fluid in the bottom. And then at the top, we have the startups. We have and startups are very autonomous. They are very diverse, very autonomous. It's like a rainbow. And so this is like our architecture, this combination of autonomy, because startups, they have their own product roadmaps. Of course, they will not change the roadmaps just because they are in a consortium. They have to, to fight for survival. But then in the end, we have research centers working at a different rate and helping the startups, contributing for the startups to differentiate in terms of their products. And then, very important, at the top, we have real world challenges that are brought from these players. So this was the initial design of the architecture of the center. This was drawn by Pedro Bizarro from FITZAI, very much connected with CMU also, and this is how we first sketched it. So the center was imagined in a series of breakfasts, typically on Saturdays mornings, near Pedro's home in Parque das Nações here in Lisbon. And then, of course, we decided to make this diagram more readable and more beautiful. And this is, in a sense, our innovation model in a very easy to visualize way. So on one hand, we have the industry leaders that bring real world challenges to the startups. The startups develop products. So this is in one dimension. Then on the other dimension, industry leaders also bring challenges to research centers, data and funding, and then research centers collaborate with research and AI expertise. And of course, startups collaborate with research centers on these fronts, in product differentiation in terms of research, but also in terms of AI talent. We are big advocates of having PhD students that are both at the research center and at the startup. This is a great way of sharing knowledge, of transferring knowledge, and of also dealing with real world data that is crucial for AI. And then ideally, research centers also can end up, not ideally, but in some scenarios, they can also result in spin-offs, which is something that, of course, is encouraged. And so, how did we organize in terms of execution the work being done? So we kind of invented this concept of the product pod. So the product pod is the kind of a group that joins the industry leader, the startup, and the research center. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example in a few slides. Okay, so just in summary, because we are getting close to the end. So these numbers are, I think, from January. So we're gonna exceed these numbers. So we already invested 63 million in, so 80% of plan at the time. It was in January. 19 products. Some of them didn't, succeed, which is fine. So we are doing product innovation. It's perfectly acceptable that some products fail. If they don't, it's because we are not taking risks, and this kind of startup innovation is about taking risks. So 4 products have become global, and 10 are kind of looking forward into becoming bigger players. So in terms of projected revenue in 2027, this is the projected revenue, 39 million, combining the startups that form the consortium. So just to finish, I'm going to give you an example of a product. Oh, sorry, I'm going to just are other examples of product impact stories, but I think we can then talk about them in the end. But if you are curious, such as eight examples, because I wanted to finish with an example, so to leave time also for Q&A of a concrete product that was born in the Center for Responsible AI. It was incubated as a moonshot at Unplugged, that is Halo. So I'm very much involved in Halo, so I can just share everything about the story of this product. So this is the product pod. So it joined people from Hospital de São João, which is the biggest hospital in the north region and one of the most innovative in Portugal. Joined people from the Champalimau Foundation, from Instituto de Telecomunicações. You can see here Hugo Silva from Fraunhofer, ICUS Portugal. You can see here André Carreiro, and from INESC D. You can see here Joana Campos and Patrícia Figueiredo from ESR. So these are like the research side, and then the hospital, and then the product team on the right that in the end decided to form kind of a spin-off from the Center for Responsible AI, and now exists as an autonomous spin-off. And so, just to finish, to conclude with this example of what we imagined initially as a product that is responsible by design. I'm going to show you a video of a demonstration of Halo at the United Nations AI for Good Global Summit in Geneva. So you can see here at the center, Vasco Pedro, that was the founder of Unplugged, and I'm over there with white trousers. I'm using WhatsApp to send messages to Luis. So Luis was diagnosed with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And so he progressively lost the capacity to move. So this disease affects the motor neurons. So people that are diagnosed with ALS, they progressively stop being able to do any kind of motor activity, and also to speak. So speaking is something that is affected. And so Luis here is wearing the headband that was prototyped during the execution of this project, and what this headband does is to detect biosignals that are still controllable by this kind of users that were diagnosed with ALS. And so it transforms these biosignals that are activated, that are produced by the still remaining neuromuscular activity in the last part of the body that they can control, transforms it into language, into the voice that these people have lost. We are using a voice cloning model for that. That really restores the initial voice that the person had. Okay, so I'm going to play the video, and I hope the sound is good.
Here's Luis. Hello, Luis. It's great to have you on the stage. And so what we'll do is Paulo will be typing in Portuguese, because Luis speaks Portuguese, and you'll be able to see the monitor so you can see the interaction. So Luis is not able to speak, so he will be communicating exclusively through Halo, and maybe we can put the computer on the screen just so that we can, there we go. Perfect. So Paulo is asking, how do you feel in the AI for Good Global Summit? Right. There we go. So, okay. And Luis answered, I feel honored and very excited to be here. It is an incredible experience, right? You can see the device. I'm wearing my device on my arm. Luis is wearing his device on his head. Now, an interesting thing, and we're announcing today a partnership with OpenAI. We're using their new voice LLM, which enables us to do something really incredible that completes the circle. Most ALS patients tend to have their voice recorded in one way or another, either through voice messages or other means. And so what we're able to do is to recreate Luis' voice using the voice LLM, so that actually when he communicates, he's communicating with his voice. And we're going to try and play his voice for you here. I don't know if you can press play.
Sinto-me honrado e entusiasmado por estar aqui. É uma experiência incrível.
For Luis, it's It's always emotional when he gets his voice back.
Espero que o Halo me ajude a comunicar melhor com a minha família e amigos. Estou otimista.
The second question was, by the way, what is the future of Halo for you? And he answered, I hope Halo helps me communicate better with my family and friends. I am very optimistic. Now, yeah, sorry, this is a bit emotional.
So we were at the United Nations, so very much aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, namely the reduced inequalities one. And yes, and as you noticed, this was really very emotional. It was the most emotional moment of the whole AI for Good Global Summit. It was referred in the end, and it's like it's a proof that you can have AI that is not only responsible but also for good by design, and that is having an impact on these people's lives. So I think I'm done. So feel free to
Thank
to
you.
ask any questions, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Paulo. It was indeed a packed presentation with a really inspiring end, so I really enjoyed it. I have many questions, but I will start with some with a question that is obviously related to this last demo, which is so you have here with Halo a really nice innovation that tackles responsible innovation, and it's really for social good. So have you considered the different ethical of when you test these tools with these patients? How do you ensure that they are allowed to keep using these prototypes, and so that they continue to benefit from these innovations? Have you discussed this? What challenges have you faced?
Yeah, one of the things, of course, that we follow, and we are now doing a clinical study with the Hospital de São João, working with their neurology department, is of course about all the protocol that should be followed in terms of data privacy. We are dealing with very sensitive data from these users, very intimate data, and it's something that of course we tell the users that for the AI to be personalized, we need to address that need. We need to have that data, so that the benefit is higher, and so at this time. And it's a great question. Also in that respect, we are not very happy with the architecture we have. So because we have this data centralized, I think in the future this data needs to be more private. We are imagining in the future having a kind of a personal LLM that is just for the user, where all the data is kept, and that is like in a sense adapted locally. So that's how we envision privacy for the future. But that's a great topic, because it's very sensitive. We are very dealing with very, very sensitive data.
Yeah, definitely. So from all these areas that you explored in the Center for Responsible AI, health is obvious, right? But what other areas do you see a greater potential to contribute to societal good and to a sustainable future?
Yeah, so we focused on health to create this critical mass of products. So it's also a way for startups to share their experiences among each other in this sector. So the other two sectors we addressed initially are not as society in terms of society impact are not as high. So it's one is more on tourism, and the other is on customer support for customers for retail. Okay, so yeah, so those are the three initial verticals that we address. So in the future, because we believe this is like a model that should be replicated. So we believe that we should extend these verticals to other domains. So one of the domains is of course education. I think education is an area that where AI, where in particular the advances on large language models can be very impactful, both from the students, but also even more maybe or not depends on the perspective, as a tool for teachers, as a tool for to increase the productivity of teachers, to also address students in a more personalized way. Something that I think we have as something to explore in the future is, for example, a teacher being able to address students that are lagging behind in a classroom in a more personalized way with LLMs and with kind of this technology. And so I think education would be like the area that I would name afterwards. We are also working with the Portuguese government in terms of looking into public administration and what other areas are we looking into? So yeah, one of the areas that we have been discussing and we suffered from that, so it's very much top of mind, is like on climate change or using AI to in a sense warn about climate disasters. So we know that we had that big storms that even killed people and destroyed a lot of companies and really well, and so that's a domain we've been looking into. So like this kind of well, of course this is not completely possible to predict, but it's a domain that I think where AI could be very impactful in terms of
Or
helping.
even for managing the post disaster, right? For
Yes, exactly.
um,
That's as an operational tool. So
yeah.
we know that, for example, if people had been warned, so for people that didn't that were not in Portugal or that didn't follow the Portuguese news, so we had big storms in February, I think, that destroyed a lot of stuff, and if we had been able to warn the population about that before, maybe we would have saved some lives, which of course would make all the difference. And so that's a line that I think it's important. So Portugal has a program, in place to address those challenges, and I would say that as a domain that I think highly impactful. That is like the climate change, the impact of climate change.
Yeah. So this also brings me to the AI impact on the job market, in the labor market and the economy, and to the collaboration you had with the Heinz College in CMU. So what was the outcome of this collaboration? Could you give us more details?
Yeah, sure. So let me just tell you the story of how it started. So, the dean of the Heinz College, Ramaya Krishnan, he visited us about 3 years ago, I think. And then for people that know, Krishnan is very proactive person. He has a lot of initiative, and we had an amazing brainstorm about possibilities for collaboration. So first of all, we was very curious about what we were doing on responsible AI, what was our agenda, what were our research domains, and then it was like a date in a sense. Like, so I shared with him what we were doing, what the domains we were working on, also what we were envisioning as challenges for responsible AI in the future, namely the impact on the workforce. And we immediately, and then Krishnan shared what the Heinz College was doing, a lot of work on responsible AI also. But then this topic, AI and the future of work, was one of the topics that we immediately saw as maybe the one with the highest impact on society. So the one that I believe, and I've been talking about this for quite a while, that I think the impact is going to be sooner of AI. Of course, there are other domains like cybersecurity and so on, but I think that the disruption that AI can provoke on the workforce, that we are already seeing on many companies that are using AI as an excuse to fire a lot of people, and there are a lot of cases of that. So I think that's a domain where I think we have very much aligned with the pillar of sustainable AI, and with the principle of social aligned AI. It's a domain where I think we can advise, starting with big companies, how to think proactively in terms of addressing the risks of AI in terms of AI automation. So the job displacement. I've been talking with a few large companies that employ tens of thousands of employees, which is a very big scale in Portugal. And they are all very much concerned about this topic, and it's a very and the Heinz College at the time did work on research on the it's called the skill fit research. Very interesting work, that in principle, from what's called workforce analytics, allows us to look into an employee of a company and understand what skills he would need to move into roles in the company less exposed to AI. Okay, and so how could he move his career forward? Decreasing the risk of displacement, of being displaced, of his job being displaced, and so it's a very interesting area. I confess that I didn't know much about that, so our kind of it aligns with our work, because we want AI to be used responsibly, and using AI to fire people in companies, I don't think is a very good use of it. And so we were concerned about that, and also. And this is also always the mindset we have when we address this kind of challenge. So we have the technology, and we have a model that was developed at the Heinz College. Now it's the Center for AI Measurement Science that it changed. So the context, and Krishnan is leading that center. And so, but also it matched a need of these executives. So these executives, they are very concerned with this, with this challenge, with this potential disruption, because they want to. First of all, they want. We have to be very straight about that. They want to adopt AI. Okay, they want to use AI, but they don't want to have people afraid of AI in their organizations. And if people feel that AI is going to automate their jobs, they're going to be afraid of AI, and that is going to introduce friction in terms of AI adoption. That's one side of the coin. The other side, which I also felt by talking with these CEOs, board chairs, and so on, is culture. So they want to preserve the culture of the organizations, and then they want to make informed decisions on human resources, on the workforce in general. And I think this partnership with CMU can help us on that. And of course, when we approach these big companies, the center together with CMU, mentioning that this has this collaboration, of course, they feel even more interested in collaborating. So I think CMU here, all the the prestige and everything is quite valuable in this context. And we want even to go further and think about this also at a broader scale, more like nationwide. So we had the opportunity to join the Secretary of State for Digitalization and Ramaya Krishnan here in Portugal for our event. And he was very much, they had a very engaged conversation. And I think we have this bridge already in construction in this field. And so we are really looking forward to the next stage of this collaboration.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much, Paulo. So we already passed a little bit more than 10 minutes. The promised.
Okay. Sorry, I speak too much.
No. It's all very interesting. So it was a pleasure to have you here, and good luck with your collaboration with the CMU. I hope to see more results in the future. And bye everyone.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.